Okay, we'll go through three stories today. Our top sort of three featured stories from this week's DXP Report and newsletter. The first being the release of Drupal 10. Why don't you give us a quick breakdown of what's new there?
Yeah, so Drupal 10 came generally available on December 14th. So Drupal's open source CMS, co-starts with Acquia. So actually, Acquia is built on Drupal technology. And with Drupal 10, it's the latest version of Drupal. Drupal always goes through numerous upgrades from Drupal, from the time they debuted in 2001. And so this latest release, there's been, according to the article from VentureBeat, there's 4,000 incremental improvements that were contributed to by over 2,000 individuals working at 600 different companies. So Drupal really takes the whole open source thing pretty seriously, and they're one of the most well-known entities in the CMS space.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that are like the sort of headline changes here. First is like a new editing experience, which I think it's a new CK editor. I think it was called. So marketers should be. Is that right?
Yeah, CK Editor 5. It's like a rich text editor framework that's supposed to be easy to work with.
Yeah, so that's good news for content editors, I guess. The other bigger piece of news is the underlying framework Symfony has been upgraded from Symfony 4 to Symfony 6, which should come along with performance improvements and that kind of thing. This is where I see Drupal's Achilles heel, right? So you mentioned this 1 minute ago, since they debuted in 2001. So we're talking about a company now that's like well over 2 decades old.
Yep.
PHP being their framework of choice. I guess it's out of choice. I guess it's out of choice, but it's almost out of necessity now, just because it's there's so much built on PHP. That's going to be their biggest obstacle for growth, I think, over the next few years, right? Because I'm no developer, but I'm pretty sure developers unanimously hate PHP, right? Do you have the same impression?
Yeah, it's still one of the widely used things, but I don't think I've heard developers recently saying they love using it. It's something they'd rather go with something else.
Exactly, and I'm thinking from the perspective of highly paid developers working for big enterprise companies, right, or the biggest agencies out there. Those are the ones who are going to be most quote unquote picky with the frameworks and the tools they're using. In their minds, I didn't work this hard and become this good of a developer to work with PHP type of thing, right? Which is why we're seeing the likes of Next.js and other frameworks sort of gain popularity in these circles because they're new, they're cutting edge, they're easy to work with. I hear so. That's going to be PHP. That's going to be Drupal's sort of Achilles heel. I don't think that's news to them or anybody, quite frankly. But this is, it's an interesting concept. Like the CMS industry 5 years ago, being like an early 2000s CMS was like a strength, right? It's like we've got history in the space, and these new guys they're too new. You can't trust them. But now it's like, if anything, I see less and less of these legacy platforms talking about when they were founded and when they started off, right? Because it seems to now be linked with okay, they're probably using some outdated stuff here and there, and their legacy, their monolith. So it's just an interesting thing I'm seeing. I haven't seen recently. I could be wrong. I haven't seen recently any large legacy mention their founding date other than Wikipedia on their website. I could be very wrong about that, but someone could quickly grab a screenshot. But I definitely feel that's a lot less emphasis on that compared to 5 years ago. Whereas, if anything, a new startup in the space has an air of, potential about it that these sort of older legacy ones just don't anymore. But yeah, that's it. Drupal 10 news. It's big news for a huge chunk of the internet. Let's be frank about that. Drupal's a massive player in the space. But yeah, I do see some obstacles. Just because there's Drupal is a topic we can dive into and talk about a lot of stuff. The whole module issue they have, security issues, the conversation of open source versus closed source is another conversation. But I think this whole PHP thing is going to drag on as a growing issue. But yeah, I'd like to hear some Drupal fans, if we have any listening to us, hear what they think if they have time to engage with us there. But in the meantime, let's move on to headless commerce startup Pack raising $3 million in seed funding. What are those guys doing?
Yeah, so they just announced $3 million in seed funding rounds led by Norwest Venture Partners, and participation from one of their previous investors, Alpaca, and another new investor, Vantera Ventures. So this brings the total funding that Pac has raised to $6 million, and they plan to use this funding to generate new strategic partnerships and build more solutions in the headless commerce space.
Yeah, so they help online retailers build PWAs, progressive web apps, and speed seems to be their their USP type of thing. So Corey Cummings, the CEO and co-founder of Pack, he said, our research shows that nearly half of consumers prefer speed to selection when shopping online, and they are increasingly looking for personalized one-click shopping experiences that resemble the simplicity of social media. That's very true. A headless approach to e-commerce removes the headache often associated with creating and deploying these powerful experiences, leveling the playing field for brands of all sizes. Can't argue with that. He goes on to just speak about how proud he is they've raised money. But yeah, this isn't in contrast to the whole Drupal conversation we just had. This is like, the exciting space, right? This is like what I mean. Like these guys were founded in 2019. They're just with it. They're like, okay, this is like the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of the e-commerce scene. They're looking to sort of enable that as much as possible. And yeah, that's in contrast, that's just a really exciting, excellent place to be growth wise. So fair play to them. Let's move on to our next story. Let's got something else.
I was just gonna add that it seems to also be the trend that we're heading into in terms of making that even the developer experience. I guess they're working on both developer and market experience, but then focus on the low code aspect of like the headless commerce, because we always talk about headless commerce being, some companies still find it complicated, but I see a lot more enterprises doubling down on being low code, no code, marketer friendly. It's just something to make it easier to build all those experiences. So they seem to be doing that as well.
Yeah, that's very true. I agree with that. Moving on to the Butter CMS acquisition. We're talking about headless CMS now. Butter has been around for a while. They're not brand new, but founded in 2017. So they were sort of one of the first to jump. Yeah, so one of the first to sort of jump into the headless CMS scene as specifically a headless CMS from the get go. Right? They were not like a CMS that became headless. They launched the headless CMS back in 2017, and at that point, I think the headless CMS trend was only maybe 18 months old by that point. So that gives you some insight into the founder and CEO of Butter CMS, Jake Lumeta, who is a friend of ours. His sort of insight, right? So why don't you tell us about the company that's acquired them?
Yeah, so they've been acquired by Tiugo Technology. So it's a PSG portfolio company. So PSG is an investment firm, and Tiugo is they're just building a portfolio of market-leading API-first developer platforms, specifically in the content creation and digital collaboration markets. So Butter CMS, that's the latest acquisition. They've also previously acquired CK Source, so it's like a text editing and document collaboration software. So basically anything remotely related to content management is essentially what they're interested in.
Yeah, and again, from their perspective, it's basically like web content management is just just kind of going off topic here, but it's one of those like staple. What's what I'm looking for? Staple and stable industries of the web, right? Like you can't not have that. It's almost at a level of like internet service providers. Like you literally need that to have the internet. Similarly, you literally need web content management to have content like presented in different ways. So yeah, it's doesn't surprise me that there's a whole bunch of companies out there who are just specifically looking at that as an investment area of investment. So going back to Jake Lumeta, his statement here: as the digital revolution accelerates, ensuring companies have easy, efficient ways to publish and manage digital content across websites, apps, and digital experiences is mission critical. With this in mind, we've developed our product ecosystem to help address these specific needs. And through our continued continued product innovation. We're committed to providing our diverse digital forward customer base with the solutions they require. Okay, bit of a mouthful there. Not I was kind of hoping for more like meat and potatoes, but yeah, that's kind of a generic statement, to be fair. But this is just a press release, so that's to be expected. So fair play to both parties here. I think like Butter CMS is a very serious platform. You know, you have a look around the website, have a look at their product. They're a serious platform. Clearly, PSG agree with that. So yeah, excellent, great news of both of those guys. I think that's our 3 stories done. Feel good to go.
Awesome.
Okay, Andres, thanks again for joining me, and I'll hopefully speak to you again next week, but probably the week after.
Yeah, that sounds good. Looking forward to it.
See ya. That was a short one.